Can't start without security.
Do you have your microphone on?
Not yet. Now can you hear me? Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3.
I can hear you.
Okay. Call meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, welcome. Have roll call,
Okay.
please.
Tyler? Here. Coots?
Here.
Newman?
Here.
Horner?
Here.
McPhail?
Here.
Dennis?
Here.
Tyler? Here.
Everybody in attendance. Let's see, approval of the agenda. Any changes, anything?
No changes.
Anybody else got anything they wanna bring up? To change? Okay. Accept the agenda then as presented. And any public announcements? Anybody got anything to say? No? No? Okay, we'll move on. Council minutes approval from the last two meetings. First of all, April 10th and then April 24th. And we can't accept them both at the same time, I assume?
No, I should be separate. I don't know if it matters.
You can do them together if there's no questions, but
Yeah.
you can do them separate too.
Okay. Any question on April 10th minutes?
Yeah, how did, just as a follow-up, how did the children at play signs go?
They're up and they're ready, they're being, well, I hope they're being followed, or paid attention to anyway.
Well, you did all the work, but I got the thank yous.
Oh, hey, well, you know what?
I'll pass them on to you.
But we, no, we work for you, so, yeah.
And then also on AKT Peerless, we were waiting on bids and stuff, how did that go?
Yeah, they actually are, put out the bids today. They were waiting for the DEQ to say, yes, go ahead, and we decided to just do it. So, I called them today and said, we're sick of waiting, just put out the bids. If something happens, it happens, but we need to move, so we're moving, so.
Okay. Because he had said that they would be done, they'd be completed by the end of April.
But one of the letters said that
Right.
they were
Waiting on
waiting
something.
for something.
Yeah, they're a little bit leery about moving forward without the blessing of the DEQ because we don't want to miss out on the money. So we want to make sure that we have jumped through all the hoops we need to jump through in order to get some of that money. Otherwise, we'll be paying for everything by ourselves. But we have access to a little bit of money to pay up to 50% or $50,000, which we've used some of that for the testing, but we have quite a bit left that we can use to offset our costs moving forward with this big project. So
Should we have waited till they got the, how long did he think the approval was gonna take?
he wasn't sure. He was just waiting to hear back. He's just waiting for them
Does
to.
anybody call, does he call them?
He does. Yeah, he's got
Okay.
somebody he's talking to there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any other questions on
Anything back from Decker on the Safe School program?
No, I keep communicating with them about it. I think they're either waiting from the organization, waiting to hear back from that organization, or they've kind of just pushed it back. And we can't, we're not allowed to be the fiduciary on that project because we're not a school. But every time we talk about it here, I generally the next day send him an email and ask him, what's going on with it. So generally the answer is we haven't heard back yet. So, but I'll do it again.
any more questions? We'll do them separately. Your motion to accept the minutes of April 10th,
So moved.
I'll second.
suppose?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all those in favor? Opposed? Minutes are accepted. And now April 24th, any questions on that one? Nice and quiet. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes for April 24th?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Commission and committee reports. Planning Commission, April 18th. Any questions on that?
Who is the Wood that's on that committee now?
Karen?
No.
Bill.
Bill.
Bill,
Bill Wood. Bill Wood?
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. I was thinking of DDA.
Yeah, Karen's on the DDA. I was just curious, I don't think I know him, so.
Any other questions?
I have a question about missing minutes, not that one. We don't have any minutes from the parks or the DDA. How long has it been since those people have met?
a couple months. They don't meet all the time. The last couple months, they didn't have literally anything to do. The last time the DDA met was, I think 2 months ago when they did the Secretary of State lease, which I think you guys got last meeting, and then that was it for them. So we'll be meeting this month for the park, and probably when I hear back from the state on the Secretary of State lease, we'll meet again for them to take action on that.
I just think they're very important. I mean, for years we've relied on them for citizen input, to advise the council on issues that pertain to the parks and to the DDA. So it always bothers me when we don't, during the year, I mean, when both Chris and Hal were here, we tried to give ourselves June, July, and August off unless there was something really important so people could schedule vacations. But from September to May, I kinda think it's important for them to meet and update them and keep them in the loop and what's going on. And that's just,
Well, the park
Yeah,
must have met, because I see we did a bunch of stuff to the, building in the park for the little leagues, the hot water heater and the,
That was all stuff that went through the budget process, so
Okay.
they did all that stuff before the,
so they met for that.
yeah.
did they approve that? Did they approve
They,
the
I
work?
think they did approve the work,
Okay, and did they
because I
approve?
knew it was gonna happen. Yeah.
Okay,
I
with the
remember.
dog park? the
No,
Girl
they
Scouts?
didn't approve that stuff. That's just basic maintenance stuff, and we're just kinda adding some things to that. They haven't approved that. There's really no money involved in that one. We've talked about doing some upgrades to the dog park in the past, but, so we've got most of the material for that, and so we're just gonna do it, so. There's no major changes to that. I mean, we're not moving an amenity around or anything. We're just adding some stuff and replacing some stuff that's broken down, so it's really just maintenance.
And their minutes sound like they approved what's later in the packet for the, accessory building.
That's me, that's planning commission.
I know.
That's
I'm
a
saying,
different me, that's a
this is
different
plan,
commission,
we
yeah,
haven't done anything,
yeah, I know.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
if there was no
so
problem.
we did approve that, that's why, and then he just reiterated that later.
But I have to explain a process because I wasn't 100% sure on a process, so I had to clarify with the attorney, so we'll talk about that in the new business part.
Any other questions? Do you hear a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Support?
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's an accept and file.
Accept and file,
Accept
we
and
accept
file.
them.
Oh,
We don't approve their minutes, they approve their own minutes.
I see.
We accept and file them.
I get it. We accept the file. You know, by the end of the year, I'm gonna learn this.
You're gonna remember it, yeah.
It's been a long time. Moving on, we've got the payment of claims.
I'd like to say first, I hope we collect taxes soon.
Well, July.
Okay, Okay.
Yep, yep, we're in our purgatory time frame right now.
I know,
Yeah, I did notice that we were.
but I look
down.
at it and cringe, yeah.
I had a question on page 2. Were we always, members of that Michigan Farmers Market Association? That, I don't remember seeing that before.
Yep, ever since we've done the farmer's market, that's an important part of making sure that that's successful, is having access to the resources that they provide. We do that every year.
Okay. And, oh, we talked about this a long time ago. Page 3, Raymond and Sons, the clothing allowance. I know we used to do the cleaning thing, but do we buy the clothing every so often, or who is it for, one person, or is it for the office? and
This
they-
one, I'm not sure.
New office, it's either for the DPW
Or
or
the
the,
police,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jenny doesn't get clothes.
I'm not sure what this, yeah. I'm not sure, we'll have to look into what this one specifically is, I'm not sure. The one
Yeah,
that
I know
It
Chris
says
mentioned that.
uniforms might be
Uniforms and clothing
police.
allowance, though, it could be.
I
That's
think that was
cleaning
West
allowance.
Boots, maybe.
Oh, that sounds like we bought boots for one of the DPW guys.
Okay.
Okay, I know one time, Chris, you said they had the clothing in a room here for police to try on or something, or?
Well, we
We do,
long
but,
ag- long
We used to
ago?
hire them if they could fit into what we had.
yeah, we, they have a room, but we've switched out some uniforms over the years, so if something fits a part-timer, they can wear it, but if we don't have anything
Yeah.
that fits them, then obviously we'll have to get them something
Yeah.
to wear.
That was back in the Bob Meyer day, you always had them try on
Oh.
something first.
Yeah,
That's what we had to do in the county. We always got second hand-me-downs.
And then page 4, at the very top, the Crown Victoria,
yes.
is that the car you drove, Matt, when you were hired?
No, it's actually, it was one of, yeah, actually it was, yeah, that was the one that I drove when we got hired, and then we were gonna sell it. It had transmission problems, which is why I stopped driving it, but, we bought a new truck for the DPW, and then a new car for the police department, and then this was just sitting and we were gonna sell it, but, Don actually wanted to get it fixed up because we could use it, because our guys are going to training a lot more now. Instead of having them drive a truck around, they can just drive the car and it saves us on fuel. So, Don actually drives that quite a bit instead of a truck.
Yeah, I
'cause
was
they-
just curious who was driving something that was 10 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah,
Well, we basically have 2 pickups that we would trust to leave the village.
Those
Okay.
are the ones sitting out there with all the paint missing on it, is it?
That's the one that pulls our water break trailer, that don't leave the village.
yeah.
I thought maybe you wanted to drive that one.
That's our grocery getter, parts running, go to class vehicles, so.
Yeah, so we just use
Funny,
that.
I have
for-
it circled too, cause that's old.
Yeah, it is old, but we use it to get around.
Okay.
You know, if they gotta go to Saginaw, instead of taking a truck out of the village, it's
Yep.
probably gonna be used by somebody else to fix things. We just take the car.
It seems to be in pretty decent shape, so.
Yeah, and we drove it to, what was it, Grand Rapids?
We took it to Grand
We took it
Rapids,
to-
we took it to Grayling a couple times for training, it seems to.
Yep.
And then the MML underneath that, the 35,000, that's all insurances, that's for a year.
Yes, that's annual.
It just looks long,
It
I
looks
think
terrible,
I
doesn't
think they charge them out differently than you used to maybe,
Um,
cause they're really long.
Oh, the numbers you mean?
Just how long they are, how
Oh,
long.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
the entry.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
entry itself.
yeah, well, we have to try to split them up to where the,
I mean,
where
you
the
really
insurance
split
is
'em.
going.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think this insurance has always been split out
I don't remember it being
pretty
this long.
similarly.
You're talking about the list, aren't you?
I'm talking about how long the
Yeah,
list
Yeah,
is.
that's what I mean.
Is that what it usually is a year, Matt, around 35, or did it go up?
Well, it goes up a little bit generally every year,
This is what she asked about over here.
but
Oh,
it's
geez.
actually only, it's like a
Yeah.
couple thousand
Oh, okay.
bucks a year it goes up based on inflation and our,
But that was awful long, too.
history of making claims.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the copy machine, did we get a new one, or is that fixing one? It's only
Um,
330, probably fixed
I
one.
think that might be our annual
Do we lease that?
We
Is
do.
that a leased
yeah.
item?
And actually, probably next year, we're gonna definitely need a new one, so. Actually, Marguerite's working on pricing them out right now, because that one was used when we got it, and we've had it for like a decade, so.
I have some questions. Malacote Builders LLC, repair post at Bad River.
Yes,
What is that?
we
What's the?
we
Oh, I'm
broke,
sorry, it's on page 3.
we
It's not much money, but I'm just curious.
we
what
broke his post while we were plowing the sidewalk.
post.
There's a post at the overhang of the bar. We plowed into it and busted the corner, so
Okay.
we paid to have it fixed.
Okay,
And it's not wood, it's a fiber in there or
It's
something.
some kind of poly.
It's a poly
Okay.
fiber.
Yep, so he,
Took a chunk out of it.
so we just had him fix it and send us the bill, cause we don't, it's not enough to make an insurance claim or anything, so,
No.
so we just fixed it.
no, but this other one, this one to Spicer, how's the, WWSL permit assistance coming?
It is still in the hands of the MDEQ.
Okay,
They have changed DEQ project managers a couple times.
yes,
And as far as I know, things are progressing, but we have not heard an answer yet.
okay. It just made me think of it when I
Yep.
saw the,
Yep.
Is that the one for the lagoon? They've actually touched base with us at DEQ, and so they're working on it.
okay, so they actually have it, and I.
Yeah, they're communicating, so.
Okay, and then the Dan Hellman signs, and I have nothing against the bill, but how, are we doing, oh, this is on page 6. This just made me think of, are we gonna fix the signs around town?
Yeah, we got quotes from Dan before the budget, and then in the, I think we're gonna focus on, Dan suggested that we pick a couple a year and do them, cause it's a lot of work for him to fix those.
Okay,
So we're gonna do the worst ones first, and then we've got, he's gonna do the DDA signs too, the ones that are in the parking lot signs and stuff.
okay, and what about, I believe the signs that say welcome to the village are not the same signs that we have out here, like this one, which should be changed because this is no longer the library.
Right.
Can he just repaint those, cause that one on the south side of town on, Sharon Road, Chestnut Street, is terrible.
Yeah, depending on the material, so.
That's just a paint, I think he can give
So
you a new material.
Yeah, so he knows which ones are which, and he's got a plan in his
Okay.
head of what he wants to do. But he wants us to strategically pick the worst ones first, and then he'll do a couple at a time
Okay.
for us.
Cause the new stuff that he does, that he just paints on, we had him do our sign, the big huge sign up at the cottage with all the names on it. And that stuff has lasted a long time and doesn't even fade.
Yeah.
We have dark blue on it. And the other one, it just started to peel off, but the new ones don't do that.
Yeah, some-
Whatever he's using,
Some he has suggested to
board.
replace, and some he has suggested to
repaint,
just repaint.
yeah. Okay, that's it.
Well,
Oh,
I
no,
have some.
I'm sorry, one more. When I was in your office the other day after that meeting, there was cameras in there.
Yes.
They're not in here.
This was not last month. The cameras were this month.
So it won't show up till next month.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you wanna just tell me how much they cost?
$1,000.
Okay,
How much?
$1,000. But it's for this building and the DPW, so
Yeah.
we've got 16 cameras that we're putting up.
I mean, you went out and
Appreciate you
bought
guys
them and
not
they're
telling
putting them
me.
out.
Yeah, yeah, we got them from Home Depot, so, and it's pretty good. And what caused that is we've been having a lot of people kind of like sneaking into the DPW while they're working out in the field. So
Oh,
we've caught a bunch of people out there recently, so,
are they borrowing things?
well,
I don't know about that, but even, we've been in meetings like with the DEQ and stuff, and people just come out and don't wanna talk to you. It's like, we're kinda in a meeting here, it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
we don't wanna be rude, but we wanna condition them, come.
Shouldn't they be coming up here in
Come
the
in here,
first place?
fill out
yeah, they
a
should
work
be.
order, we will get back with you, but, you know.
yeah,
you
Yeah,
know.
we put up, no authorized personnel signs, stop signs, everything, and they're ignoring them. So we just wanna see what that traffic is actually like, so we bought cameras for that building, and it was a pretty good price, so we just got some for this building, and we're gonna split them out, so it's not a huge impact on
The
everybody.
signs are pretty serious because I pulled up there and I wouldn't pull in either.
A lot of people think them.
I didn't want him yelling at me.
Other people
forgot.
Not for them.
Because we're a small town, I think that, they just wanna talk to
Yeah.
somebody about something, so just walking up here, I don't think it's.
Oh, they used to do it all the time when they were here,
Yeah.
people just walk in to talk to them.
Anything else?
Yes,
Okay.
play for the lagoon, what I mean, that was a very little cost, but
Page,
what are we doing, page 4?
We had to do a repair on one of the dikes, wrote it, caused an issue, so we had to fix it.
Okay, so what, obviously wasn't a whole lot of clay then, huh?
No, it's just, I think it was 10 yards or something.
Was it eroded or was there an animal?
We've got
Well,
critters.
A critter had burrowed into it and then it started leaking, so.
Okay.
we had to repair it.
And then Bow Wow Waste Products,
Yeah.
Oh, that's a full baby.
huh? Yeah, I actually went over to look at them today, we pay for those?
Yes.
Well, where'd you think we'd get them free?
Well, no, but I mean, I don't understand why people aren't cleaning up behind their own dogs.
Well, it's easy for them to do it if we provide the bags. And that amount is a lot. It's like
That's probably be a couple of years worth.
How many, that was my question, how many?
It's a large, I don't know, there was a case with probably 50 individual boxes for
Okay.
each.
See, I think it makes people feel guilty
Yeah.
and they'll
I
pick
don't
it
think
up.
so.
I would.
It does get
But
used. and-
could we get shovels or something, or little scoops or
No.
something?
They'd be gone. Bill would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
gone.
We'll clean them up with a mower.
Yeah.
And well, then there's the trash bags for parks, so that's a separate thing,
Yeah, that's the big trash
Big
container.
trash bags,
No, that's
okay,
separate from Bow Wow.
Yeah.
okay. Service contract for generators on page 6, Hubble
Yes.
Company, what generators do they service?
We have a generator for this building. We have generators for our pump stations and the DPW. So I think there's 4 or 5 altogether that he services. He does oil changes a couple times a year, and then if they break,
Test them.
he tests them. And then if they break, he comes out and fixes them.
So how often does he come out?
Maybe quarterly.
Yeah, I think it's
Maybe.
quarterly.
I think it's quarterly. We've had him forever.
And he does a great job, keeps us running, so.
Yeah, I just don't remember seeing it.
And we had one situation where the battery went out on this, and it was like 7 o'clock at night, and he showed up in like 5 minutes and fixed it, and it was great service.
We had him on
And then on
We
thing
had one
6,
over-
Stone Creek, what was that for?
I think we got a one for the park and one for the streets, I believe.
Yeah, we use that all over the place for a million different things.
Okay, you're just talking about maintenance,
Yeah, yeah.
then it's not a project or whatever, so.
Well, we use it at the park for like that walking path we installed, and we did some work around the bleachers with it. Just a useful product, so.
Okay, okay.
And then we'll be using more Stonecrete over at Waterfowl Park too. We're gonna be making paths and stuff through there. It's relatively inexpensive, definitely more economical than putting cement in every place.
Plus cement cracks, as we know in our driveway. We spent a lot of money and it's still, in this place it cracks, yeah. Okay, those are my questions.
Anyone else?
I have one more. I see we bought diamond dust. Did our DPW have to spread that around, or was it the bulk
No,
people?
we actually bought that and then they reimbursed us. Did they end up reimbursing us, Jenny?
Yeah, not, they've got the invoice, they're gonna be paying us back.
They're
for it.
paying us back for that.
But are they gonna spread it around, or will our guys?
Yeah,
do
it was like a contingent amount they needed to just touch up the bases when they need it. And then at the end of the year, if there's any left, we're actually gonna spread it around.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I make a motion, we pay the bills in the sum of $134,527.20.
I
Support?
support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. New business. Planning Commission recommendation to amend the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so we found out recently that there's a little bit of a loophole in our zoning ordinance that allows accessory structures without a primary structure. It comes down to an and/or in one of our matrices for our zoning restrictions. And so the planning commission looked at that and they basically took those out in each of the zones, and then they changed the definition that had a little bit more of a loophole in it. And so that actually is in their minutes. And the process piece,
Well, this is,
the process piece that I wanted to mention to council is, and I learned this after the planning commission meeting with our attorney, is that the public hearing has to be set in front of the planning commission instead of the council. So that's the next step, is to have the planning commission have that public hearing, and then we'll write out the amendment and then bring it back to council. So that was something that I missed, because I was not familiar with the zoning ordinance process, so that's my fault. But it's an easy fix. We'll go back to the planning commission, do the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back, and then council does not have to have a second public hearing. You guys will just vote on it at a meeting, at a regularly scheduled meeting, so.
Okay.
So this really works better, cause now we can say to the planning commission, we're fine with this, the way it
We're
is, so go
fine.
ahead and finish it up.
Exactly, yep.
so when are we gonna do this with the planning commission?
Well, probably not at the next meeting, cause we have the EDC planned for this month. The Economic Development Corporation is kinda taking over the planning commission's time. So we can do it at the next meeting, or we can do a special meeting and we can do it like back to back with the EDC, maybe come in early, next Thursday and do it. We only have to have,
It's coming
well-
Thursday. You can't do a public hearing then.
well, not a public hearing necessarily. Well, you're right. So and this particular public hearing has to give 15 days notice.
Right.
So I guess it would be at the next month's
June.
meeting. So for June.
So in June,
So in June, yeah. And according to Gary, you guys could set the public hearing for the planning commission if you wanted to tonight, and then we can have, technically the zoning administrator has to do the hearing notice in 15 days in advance, so we'll do that. And that's a good way to get the process going, and then we'll come back in July, would probably be the next meeting, and
June.
Oh,
June,
Do
this is
we
May.
have to do anything with this?
if we would set the public hearing right now, can they do it at the June meeting?
they could do the public hearing in June. I'm talking about back to council.
Oh,
would
because
be-
they're after us.
Because they're at, yeah. So it
We
would
can
come,
try to skip July.
if you want. Or we could do that in August, if that's up to you guys.
I don't know.
Be the
what you guys think.
devil's advocate, what happens if something comes along in between there? We put a stand, leave it set until this is done?
Well, no,
No, if somebody came in, they'd be able to still
they'd be
do it.
able to do it, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
clear.
We could move that planning commission meeting back this month, which would be a change, to give us the amount of time that we need to do the public hearing. And then it would
Over the
still,
week.
yeah, and it would still,
You mean
it would
June
still,
meeting?
yeah, we could still come do this in the June meeting here. What about that?
Anything, we just look at the calendar, just count 15 days. I think if you do it the next week, you would be good, you'd be fine to do it.
Well, when you get the notice published, though, you have to, it's 15 days from the date of publication.
Right, yeah, 15 days, so we would have to calculate. Well, the legal notices for this week is passed, or will be, well, I guess it's
Well, there's-
noon tomorrow.
There's over 15 days left in May, because our meeting's really early.
Yeah,
This
we,
is here,
yeah, we
so-
did that like on the 23rd instead of the 16th.
When do you meet?
On Thursdays.
Well, you can meet the regular time this time, because you've got something else planned, right, with the EDC, whatever you're talking about.
Mhm.
And then the following June,
Yeah.
have it early,
Or we could do,
do the June meeting just ahead of us, and then we would pass it in June, and it would be all done.
well, when would that put us in June? I'm not looking at June.
Just gotta get the public hearing in there.
June, go to June.
You know how to drive.
So, the 12th, ours would be on the 12th, so you'd have to have a meeting
Diane,
on June 6th.
So,
We could do that too. Whichever you'd rather do. We could do either one.
Wouldn't you rather get done before July?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I would.
So, let's do it that way.
So we'll have a regular meeting this coming Thursday, talk about the
EDC, you're not technically meeting as a planning commission, you're meeting as the
Economic Development Corporation, okay? So, and then we would have the planning commission early for June, and then we won't have another one.
On the 6th with the public hearing,
Right.
and then we could pass it on the 12th.
And then we can notify everybody at the upcoming planning commission hearing so they can make changes to their schedule. Okay, that'll work too. I'm wondering, does everybody here agree with the language changes? Did you read those over?
I did read them. Yeah, I read them twice to make sure I was, but yeah, I'm okay with them.
We have
You
one-
have to
Looks
have
like
a,
it solves
you
the
have to have a building there before you can put an accessory building up by it.
Right.
A dwelling.
Dwelling, well,
Yeah.
depending on what
or a business.
zone it's in.
If you're gonna use this particular language, you need to change it, ask for a D in, or page 3, 4. You have number 1A. Instead of state licenses, it needs to be state license. It needs to be a D instead of an S there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, you guys
She's
did get
good,
my, okay.
she's good. I read it several times. I
They,
think.
they did get my memo. Yeah, yeah. Yep, we'll change, actually, I'll do a, like we've done here in the past, we do a resolution with all of the language on it. I'll do that for the planning commission, and then, it'll all be laid out like
It'll all
that.
change on that,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So is there anything we need to do with this?
No, basically, we'll send it to the, well, if you wanted to set the public hearing for the planning commission, that would be helpful.
Why don't you do that?
Hmm?
You do that, set it, you're on the planning commission.
No, I can't do that then.
Okay,
That's
I
not
make a
idea.
motion that we set a public hearing for, does it have a number?
No, there's no number.
No. For the change in the zoning ordinance for the planning commission on June sixth.
Support?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion be carried.
To see if everybody's unhappy, I can blame you guys.
Yep.
We run sort of broad shoulders.
Yeah.
Departmental reports, DPW report.
You guys were busy.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? There's one light still, we took a drive through the industrial park, we do that on occasion, and there's still one light pole that doesn't have a light on top of it.
Yeah,
Are they gonna get out at any time in the near future and put one in there?
they keep telling us they're coming, they keep sending missed digs, and then they don't show up. So we're not 100% sure what their timeline is.
Well, the ones that are there look quite nice.
They do.
But
Yeah,
it's
they
just,
light up nice.
I contacted Consumers Energy last week, and I have not heard back.
Yeah, they've stopped responding to us.
that's just wrong. That is just, we paid for those
If you don't pay your bill,
so
they'll let you
long,
know.
yeah, it's
We
it's
pay,
true.
yeah, we pay our bills.
If you don't pay your bill, boy, they're out there right away to shut you off.
Let's
within
hold
the-
the next check.
Well,
Yeah,
well, then they'll shut us off.
I
and
know.
We'll be in the dark.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
I was gonna say, it's not like we're paying our small bills either.
No.
Smaller bills now that we have LEDs,
Yeah.
but still pretty big.
How did the water main break go?
It went,
Well, besides that, you know what?
How many do you end up with?
Yeah, it,
5.
5,
5 and then
is
a
that when you were
repeat.
flushing?
we're doing some, hydrant flow testing for the
Okay.
reliability study, and we had a malfunction with a hydrant, and a 1940 main doesn't take kindly to that.
No, they don't.
did you
Handle
replace
the
with the new
shocks too
stuff
well.
that we've been talking about, or?
No, we're just putting clamps to repair it.
You're just
They
a
just
temporary fix then?
Yeah,
Probably would've been faster to replace it, but
yeah. Yeah, this one will be an expensive fix. We had to call in 2 contractors to help us. We had five at the same time, so we couldn't, there's no possible way that we could have.
Are we gonna do this again soon?
I hope not.
The study, are we
Oh.
gonna study some more, or is the study all
I
done?
think we're to the
Learned
end.
everything you wanted to know.
We're presenting the study at the special meeting.
The flow
Okay.
testing is, we're probably
Done.
done.
Yep,
Okay.
Yes.
And we don't need any more of the
No.
testing breaks.
But, you know, we talk about, you know, critical assets, criticality, and consequence of failure. This is a case study for why we're doing what we're doing. Because if you think about what would have happened if the fire department was hooked up to that hydrant,
Yep.
using that water, that could have been,
Start blowing them out all over the
that could have been a
place.
disaster. And they were being careful to shut that hydrant off. The fire department is not. So, yeah, so,
Well, because they're,
That's
hurry-
not
they're,
their
they're,
problem.
yeah, they're in a
yep,
rush.
that's
I
not,
get
it's not
that.
their job to worry about the water
No.
line, it's their job to put the fire out, so.
Anything you'd like to add?
That this, we got it done, the guys, they did a heck of a job, they really, we were there for the first night, well, I was there 36 hours, but they went home for 2 hours and got sleep when we come back in, and thought we had 2, we fixed them, a third one showed up, and a fourth one showed up, we had them fixed, and
How many people did you have to turn off?
it was basically about 2 blocks of Fulton Street,
Okay.
a block or 2 of Hosmer, it wasn't too bad, so.
How long were they turned off?
There wasn't really a straight period, it was on and off several times, but there was interruptions for probably 24 hours.
Come to my house and shower several times.
There was interruptions, it wasn't off solid for 24 hours, and we never.
Well, there was a time when we had to shut the whole town
Yeah.
down because we didn't know.
No,
it
we
was
didn't
shut.
get to that point, so, and it didn't affect the water tower at all, so we were able to stay away from that, it was still operating normally, so. Actually, there was, within a block, there was a really good, healthy hydrant if something were to happen, so.
You know, your people, you and your people, the DPW department is probably the only group of people in this town that doesn't get complained about.
It was shockingly surprising that we didn't get more complaints. The people in the area were actually very reasonable. I couldn't believe it, honestly.
Well, because people know that you guys work and, you know, they see it, they see the results of
Well, I
it,
think
so,
they know
yeah.
if you're fixing it,
Right,
that's all they
right,
care about, just
right.
fix it.
I've been in other places where you are not a very nice person. Even if it's once every 20 years, you're still you're not happy. I felt their pain. I was one of the houses that was off, so.
So was
Yeah,
I.
you're over here.
My house was off too.
Was it?
Yeah.
How about
That's
the
pretty scary when you have the
assisted
village
living
manager's
facility?
house off.
You-
They were off too, but they were troopers the whole time.
Okay.
We were constantly communicating with them and, you know, we were taking, you know, chlorine samples and all that stuff to make sure everything was going good once we turned the water back on, so
Mhm.
they were really good to work with.
Okay.
I think it's a concern, as someone who's had really sick people in my house, and I mean really sick, I think there's always a concern, what's gonna happen when something like that happens and the water goes off, so somebody might be panicked more than in a bad mood, really, you know what I mean, what are they
No,
gonna
we
do?
were in contact with them constantly, and they would let them know what was happening, and, you know, any precautions they should take, we were talking to them.
Mhm.
Any other questions? File this?
Yeah, you just,
Maybe do that.
yeah, just flip it over.
Spicer's engineering report.
If
Nobody
you
here
have a
tonight?
copy of my report, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Now we have another meeting the 22nd.
2 weeks, yeah.
Anybody have any questions for that meeting? Get them in order?
Yeah, is that gonna be our last second meeting of the month?
I think it'll be our last for the summer. We might have another one
fall,
or
right?
two come again in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
That would
We'll-
make
we'll
some
be-
people
we'll
very
be talking
happy.
about-
What?
Yeah, we'll be talking about water.
I thought we were talking about,
We'll be finishing up storm sewer and we'll be talking about the water
the
system.
water part.
And nothing on the streets yet, so.
Nothing on the streets yet. We do have some things that I may touch on. It just depends on how much time and how much you can handle me.
Well, those meetings are going pretty well. They're informative.
They are
and-
going
and they
well,
just-
but these are going short, so you could put the two together if you had to.
Right, yeah.
So I'd say we're gonna have one more work session
Okay.
and then, we'll, digest things over the summer and then maybe September, probably September, I would say, we may need another one.
Okay,
The things need to be submitted in, November.
okay.
Anyone have any other questions from the special group? We will file it. Police Department report.
Chief, I have to tell you,
All
I
four
like
lines.
it, I like it when I see 27 verbal warnings. I like the verbal warnings, because I always hate it, we're gonna ticket everybody left and right. There's sometimes you just need to tell people,
Yeah,
slow down, back it off, whatever it is, and just,
there's a lot
and
of
go,
that.
I like that, huh?
There's a lot of verbal warnings, they're not, sometimes officers write tickets as a second income for court time. They're not doing that, so.
No, I mean, and
There's
I,
only 7 written.
yeah, and I just the percentage, of what was written in the verbal warnings, I like that, because I think that's in the
Plus,
spirit
you
of the
usually give
small
them,
town.
for speed, you usually give them a buffer. We gave them 15 in the city, 15 over. I don't know, every officer kinda has their own individual buffer that they give them, cause you're not gonna write a ticket for 1 mile over. You take that into a courtroom, they'll run you out, or they'll run you right out of there.
Rightly so, yeah.
Chief, have you seen an uptick or any change because of the marijuana law since it's passed?
No, I haven't seen any effects of that. I'm not making the nighttime stops like the
Yeah.
other officers are, but I just,
Do you know if the other communities are having any big change?
no.
More stops or?
All I know is what the state told us a couple chiefs meetings ago, is that they were basically going to stop searching cars when they smell marijuana.
Yeah, you said that, yeah.
That's kinda big, I mean,
Yeah.
that was a Supreme Court ruling that officers used for decades, and
Yeah.
then,
I think we all expected it to be a bigger problem than what it is for the officers.
What about the under influence thing, though? I mean, if they're driving, you're still going, reckless or
right,
something?
if you, if you smell the burnt marijuana, then you have an under the influence case, but just smelling unburnt marijuana, they're transporting, and it's legal to transport. How do we, you ask them how much they have, of course they're gonna say 2.5 ounces or less, but they could have a bale of it in the trunk, and you don't know.
We brought a car in the other night, or a truck in the other night, and went up, took pictures of the next day for records, and here's a bag of marijuana they ran out of constable. Why, what a party, no.
Yeah.
But it's, we had the state out there, or the county came out afterwards to get some paperwork out of the car, and he picks the bag up, moves it over.
That's all you can do now.
It just seemed funny, after all the years that
Right.
we've been enforcing it.
Take a photograph of it and then seize it.
Yeah, it was weird. Any other questions of the police chief? We will file it. And now we have code enforcement? No, building inspector.
I see they pulled a permit to demo a place on Florence.
Yes, yep. I think they're planning to tear it down and build new.
Okay,
That's,
that's a tiny lot.
it is. Rob's working with them pretty closely to make sure that they were gonna try to do, similar sized house, but Rob's trying to convince them, instead of going out, to maybe do a second story.
Narrow two-story thing or something.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do.
Any other questions? We will file it. And the code enforcement report.
Yep, I didn't have anything written, but I do have a quick verbal report for Flint Street. We were planning to do shock and awe over there this week, but he ended up getting his own dumpster and kind of making huge progress over the last couple days. So we didn't. We were gonna go over there with the DPW and the police and just take everything out, but he actually stepped up to the plate a little bit.
Watching them move it from one lot to the other.
So, they took out a dumpster full of stuff today, so, he's cleaning stuff up, so, yeah. But
Looks better.
it does. So, but we're keeping an eye on everything and keeping track, and the car letters we sent out, the time has lapsed, so we have, just a handful left that haven't done anything, so we're gonna send, a second letter to them, and then, just see what happens after that. Hopefully after the second letter, they'll figure out we're serious, cause after the second letter, the next step will be tickets, so we're just working
What
through
about
it.
the guy that's trying to fix the apartment building? He doesn't have enough parking, is he still going forward?
He's become a thorn in our side. He wants to turn the water on, he wants permits for things, but he doesn't really have all his ducks in a row. So, he probably won't get an occupancy permit, and if he doesn't have one of those, then Don won't turn his water on, so.
Is that the same one that we talked, is it the same people that we talked to before? or not?
Different people.
Different people.
Across from Kendall's?
Yeah, I know which building it is, but I'm just wondering, it's different people now.
It's different people.
Last 3, 4, 5 months it was sold.
I don't know if it was sold. I think there's some sort of, I would say like a state type situation.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever, he said he bought it, but.
Yeah. Well, it's a little. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's a little sketchy in the way that it's being represented to us. So we're paying
Well,
very
they
close
can-
attention.
They can fix it, I mean, they tear out those sheds in the back, they can make parking. So they can't just say, no, it can't be done, because yeah, it can be done.
Right.
To make it right,
Yeah.
but,
Well, we had an interaction with the gentleman who's doing it, and Don was there, and he, we told him, look, you have to do this, and this in order for us to get the water to the building, and he wants to negotiate. He wants to put in different materials and different size things, and he wants to cut corners, and we have to inspect that and make sure it's safe, and we're having a little bit of trouble working with the guy. He doesn't want to do things up to the standard that the village has, so we're just gonna keep moving down the road and see what happens. We can't really stop him from working on his property, but we won't necessarily turn his water on or make sure he has a permit to move people in, but.
Those water connections over there was a problem, right?
There's an issue with it. He has to replace his own line, and he's trying in the worst way to cobble it together. We keep telling him it has to be one solid piece in the material, and then he wants to negotiate, and I told him the same thing over again, and it just is what it is. So unless it's inspected in the right material, it's not getting turned on.
stick to your guns.
Well, you want a copy of the ordinance, it's like, well, it's not necessarily an ordinance, we can name the materials we want in our system,
Yeah.
But that's just how he is, he's a unique person that he's just kinda difficult to deal with if he doesn't hear what he wants, so.
Any further discussion on this? You have anything else, Matt, on that?
No.
Like, commented.
Well, we shall follow that and move on. How about public comment? Still no more? Oh, step right up to the podium, please.
I don't want to, but I'm Terry Bailey, and Beautification Day is a week from Friday on the 17th. So if anyone wants to help, either adopt a garden or supervise kids on that day, or help. And we're having a meeting tomorrow at 5:30 at the high school science room, in the high school science room.
Okay, 7
Pardon?
o'clock tomorrow?
5:30 is
5:30.
our meeting.
Okay.
nothing from our county commissioner?
I have nothing new from last month. Did Bill get out here earlier today for the meeting?
No, he's coming in June.
June. Oh, okay, okay. I thought he was coming to the next meeting.
No.
So mosquito abatement per your guys' request last time I was here. The director, I believe it's the director himself, will be coming out to discuss the mosquitoes with you guys.
Is he gonna wear armor?
I don't know.
I told him to.
I know they, I just did get an update though, they finished all the aerial stuff in the county. I forget now how many thousands of acres they treated, for targeted areas, but, other than that, I really have nothing new from the last time I was here. Unless anybody has questions.
I think this is the first time, I've kept an eye on it, I think this is the first time in 4 years that we didn't have a week of torrential rain after the aerial. I think it is.
After you went through.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been 4 years. Right after they do the aerial spreading, we get rain for a week.
Okay.
And this is the first year I think we haven't had that.
Yeah, I know they invited me to go to the airport and see them, and the week they invited me out, it was all rained out that week, so. And then I wasn't able to get out there the following week.
They really buzzed our neighborhood, and they probably said, well, there's that lady lives over there, that
Yep.
drives all the time to the mosquitoes, so.
They were close.
Yeah, they were low.
Yeah.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I will motion that.
Support?
Second. I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.